Welcome to Unit 2, Microsoft PowerPoint. The essential outcomes for Unit 2, you will utilize open and closed software to create and format professional business documents, especially slideshows with basic software features. 2, you'll be exploring technology's impact on the global world. And 5, you'll articulate and utilize computer and software images or terminology. All right. This is a PowerPoint that I have already designed. And the reason why I designed it is so that we can get through this PowerPoint without all the delays I have with my internet. I assume most of you have done PowerPoint. What we want to do in this presentation is to make sure you're clear on all of the skill sets that we expect you to use in this PowerPoint for your project. So you can refer back to this video if you're unsure of specific techniques. All right, the first thing you're going to do is add a new slide. All right, so you just click on it and it will put in a new slide. When your new slide, the first slide that comes in will be a title slide. On the title slide, you have a couple of options. If I click here, I can go to design. And if I click on my drop down, I have a lot of pre-formatted designs that I can choose from. As you can see, I chose this one, the badge. And then once I added it, I came over to its variants, and you can choose a variant to change the color but keep the style. You can also right click. If you don't like the designs, you can right click and format your background, and you can put in a solid color. You can add granite. So these are my preset granites. I can upload a picture, or I can add a texture. Here's my textures. I can also add a pattern, and then I can come down here and I can click and change the color if I wanted, and then I just choose the pattern I want. I'm using Control Z to restore where I left off. On your first slide, make sure you have a title that tells you what the slide is about. And then secondly, make sure you have who it's by and your last update. If you notice on this picture or on this first slide, I originally had a design. But when I got to the end of the PowerPoint and I did some research on the internet, I decided that I really thought that this image was a better image to use for my start of my slide. So I put the image in, and then what you can do is you go to Picture Tools Format, and then you can bring images forward or back, or you can bring text forward or back, or you can send them backwards or send them to back. Just play around with those tools to figure out what works for you. To add your second slide, you would just click on New Slide. When it uploads a new slide, it will by default put in the title and content. For this PowerPoint, since you are not adding words to the PowerPoint, but rather you're putting images in, and then you're going to do a voiceover that talks about each of those images, then what you want to insert is a blank slide. So on this one, I have a blank slide, and I added 3 pictures. Oops. As you can see, all 3 of these pictures, if you notice there's a little black identification that tells you where the slides are from, that tells the user that you actually got those pictures from being online, which is automatically Creative Commons. So you need to document on every slide where you got your images. To do that, you're going to put it in your notes section. So when you're looking at your PowerPoint, you're going to have to look at the very bottom where your notes are at. And you notice I get a double arrow. If I pull that up, then I can type in this box. And notice here I just said all images are Creative Commons images. We'll let your teacher know that you actually just got them online through Bing. and those are all Creative Commons. If I go to my next slide, if you notice down in my footnotes, I have documentation. That's because these images, instead of coming from online, I didn't like any of the pictures on my online. So what I did was I went to Google and I did some research for images. And then I typed in, I don't know, I typed in pizza. Now, the first thing I need to do to take any of these pictures, I have to go to my tools, and then where it says usable rights, I have to click on label for reuse with modification. That will give me images that are Creative Commons. I can use them. So let's say I want to pick this picture. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy my image. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and all I have to do is do Control V to put that image back into my document. Then I need to go back to my document, and you should have turned on or have made sure you have your Google.gl URL shortener included there. I'm going to click on that with my image open. It is going to shorten up my URL. Instead of having this big long URL, I'm going to copy this shorter one. I'm going to click copy, and then I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to type in first image and then Control V, my shorter URL. So I have identified where my first image came from. I need to do that for every image that I take off of Google Images. Remember, a couple things you need to do. Losing my. You first need to go to Tools, and then make sure you click Label for Reuse with Modification. That's a must. Then the next thing you have to do is after you right click and copy the image into your slide, then you need to come back and get your shortened google.gl URL shortener. And then you're going to click on copy, and then you're going to go back to your PowerPoint and paste that into your notes section. If I go to my third slide, you're going to see that this image also came from Google Images. I can tell because I have the URL there. If I go to my next slide, you're going to notice that here again I have that little black reference. So that is from Online Pictures, which is from Bing, which is Creative Commons. So all I have to do is type in all Creative Commons images. My next slide, this was a Creative Commons, so the only documentation I needed was to say that it was Creative Commons. My next slide, all of these pictures came from Google Images, and I must document every picture that I take from Google Chrome Images, and make sure you shorten up that URL. We don't want to see big long URLs in there. Shorten them up. All right, so we have talked about adding design, inserting pictures. Now we've talked about transitions. Now let's talk about animation. All right, in this picture, all right, I'm going to click on my first picture. I'm going to click on animation, and I need to open up my animation pane. Once this pane is open, you can see that I have 3 different animations. For the picture 5, I have a fly in. For picture 8, I have a float in. And picture 11, I have a float in. If I wanted to change that, I could by clicking on the drop down and just clicking a different animation. One of the things I do want you to notice, though, on my first image, I have the image starting on click. Since you're going to be adding text to, or words to this, words, timing might play a role in how you do this. On my second image, I have it after previous, but notice I put a delay in so that I can talk about my first image before this image comes in. And then my third image, I have a 2-second delay, which means after this image comes in, I have 2 seconds before I need to talk about my third image. Then I'm going to go to my next slide. And again, you notice my animations are all the same. When I need a delay, I put a delay in. Now, if you notice, I also have added something unique to my images. If you click on an image and go to Picture Tools, Format, you can add a picture style of your choosing. So whatever you think will look good is what you can add in. Once you add in your picture style, you can actually add a border, another border you can change the color of the border by clicking on it. And if you go down to weight, you can change the weight of the border. So if you notice, each one of these has a little different colored border. And on this bottom one, I went to Picture Effects, then went to Glow, and I came down here and added a glow to it. So those are different features that you can add to your PowerPoint. So we have talked about how you insert pictures through online and how to access them through Google Images by using your label for reuse with modification. We have also talked about how you need to get the Google GRL shortener to put in for your URL for your pictures. We have talked about adding designs. We have talked about adding transitions. You can add a transition on all of your slides, or you can do it separately. Animations, you're just going to make sure your animation pane is open. You click on your image and then you add your animations, and then you can start it, add with previous or after previous, and then you can add a delay if you would like. We also talked about going to Picture Tool Format, and you can add picture styles, you can add the picture border and picture effects. We talked about how you bring images forward and backwards. At the beginning of your slide, make sure you have an introductory slide that tells you what the slide is about. And at the end, you should have a slide that tells people that you have come to a conclusion. Now, here is a slide that I use to conclude my images. I found one that was animated. And then I had put this thanks for watching on delay. And then as this closes out again, I put an exit. I'm going to exit out of that. And how did I do that? I went to I went to animations. And if you look here, my first one is an entrance. But you notice I have a star with a red. If you go to add animations, you can add a second animation if you wanted to exit. And you can add any of these. And then if you notice, I have a delay set for both of them. I have this set on a delay for my entrance, and I have a delay on my exit. The next PowerPoint will talk to you about how you use Screencastify to make sure you can turn this into a video. What we want you to do is add your voiceover on this so that you can actually create a video that explains all of your images as you go through. So your project should contain pretty much all of the information that was shared with you on this PowerPoint. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your project.